List off in 3, 2, 1.
Hey there, writing cadets, and welcome back to the Moving Right Along podcast, the podcast by young writers for young writers. We're your hosts, Ruby,
Ray,
and Kat. Last episode, we talked about poetry and talked with the incredible D-Cell Carson, and I called America the Colonies because someone wrote that into the script. And someone wrote it into the script again today because they just enjoy tormenting me. And, you know, this will continue on until we form a riot against the producers of Moving Right Along and free me from these shackles. So we all make mistakes and can grow from our bad writing. It's not bad to be in a state of progress, as this helps us grow in our skills and as people. Today, to help us learn more about self-reflection and growth, we are super excited to have a special guest with us.
And everyone, please welcome the one, the only, Zoulfa Katouh. I said that right? That's how you pronounce your name?
Yeah, that's how you say it. Yeah, it's okay. That's how you say it the English way. And honestly, you guys say it better. Like some Arab speakers don't say my name right as well, so it's cool. But yeah, my name is also a bit weird in Arabic, so it's okay.
Well, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Again, my name is Zoulfa Katouh, and I am the author of As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow. I am also pursuing my master's in drug sciences. My background is in pharmacy. I'm a Canadian who's living in Switzerland, so I'm pretty much all over the world. And my hobbies, I love the nature. I mean, Switzerland is very famous for the nature, so I really, really love it here. It's a huge inspiration for my writing. And I am a huge Studio Ghibli fan, and obviously, of course, a BTS fan. I mean, I've got the boys right here on my model. Yeah. So yeah, Army first, human second. And yeah, that's me.
Love that. Well, we're so excited to have you. We've all been really looking forward to this. Our producer Simone was telling you earlier, we've basically since we started the podcast, because a lot of us attended the summer write-a-thon, including me and Ray, and Simone was there, and probably some other people as well. But we loved your keynote and we loved everything you had to say. And then we saw you at the winter write-a-thon again, and it was awesome. So we're just really big fans, and we've been really looking forward to this.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Yeah. And so for those who don't know, As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow is Simone's most anticipated book of basically ever. We're all very excited to read it, but Simone's losing her mind basically. And Jasmine is pre-ordering the book as a graduation present for herself. Yeah, but we're all just really excited for a chance to read and support your novel. So we wanted to ask what you can tell us about the plot of it and what's it about.
Yeah, so I've been a bit secretive about the plot because there's stuff that goes around in it, and I don't want to give too much away because with a book like Lemon Trees, anything can happen. I mean, it's not because it deals with life or death situations, so it's kind of a bit sensitive. So you want to protect the plot a bit so people get surprised when they read it. Hopefully a good surprise. So Lemon Trees is a speculative contemporary. And it follows this girl, her name is Salama, and she is trying to find a way out of Syria before her pregnant best friend and sister-in-law, Layla, gives birth. So there's a timer. And so Salama also volunteers at a hospital. She was studying pharmacy at a university, and now because of everything that's going on, the only person left in her family is Layla. So she also, because of everything that she's went through, she suffers from PTSD. And that's where the speculative element comes into play. Her PTSD has manifested into this tall, mysterious, quote unquote, man called Khauf, who is not so gently bullying her into leaving Syria. And so there's also a romance element in the book because I love romance and I got to have it in my books. And the romance is more of a hope plot line because there's so much heavy stuff that goes on in the book. I wanted to counteract it with the romance element, which is hope. And so it was very fun to write the romance between Salama and Kinan, and I love them and they're my babies and I hope you love them too. And so yeah, basically that's the book because, as I said, there's the timer with Layla's pregnancy, and so Salama has to find a boat before bad things happen. And yeah, it comes out this September 13th by Little Brown and September 15th by Bloomsbury in the UK, and in Australia, September 20th. And yeah, I hope you guys like it when you read it.
I'm sure we will. It sounds so great. And I'm also a gots to have romance kind of person. I've never written a book without romance, and I have no intention of ever doing it. So, you know, it's more fun. It's more fun, but you know.
Right? I can't explain it. It's like, I don't know. For me, it's fun to write. It's like those tropes, those cute stuff you have to. Yeah.
Yes, of course. Well, we're excited to get into like the interview chunk. So we have some questions for you. So for our first one, we wanted to ask, what has been your writing journey?
Okay, so my writing journey has been kind of, I mean, they say every writing journey is different. Like every person goes through their own unique writing journey, and mine has been like really weird. I started writing Lemon Trees in 2017 when I moved to Switzerland, and people were asking me that, oh, you're Syrian, so are you a refugee? And of course, there's nothing wrong with being a refugee, but I realized coming from an Arab country that people don't really know what's going on. I mean, in the Middle East, everybody knows what's going on, but the West, they don't really know. And I wanted to write a story. I wanted it to be young adult, and I wanted it to be something that people learn about Syria and what's going on through a young girl's eyes. So I wrote it in 2017 in NaNoWriMo, and I finished it the following August 2018. And I have no patience. So please, everybody listening, all writers listening, do not follow what I did. I did horrible things. I did not revise my book. I was like, first draft, we are querying this because it is a masterpiece. And it was so bad. My book was 130,000 words. Like, that is not okay for a contemporary. It's not good. So I entered PitMad, and I got one like from an agent. And I also, because I just began on writer Twitter, like book Twitter. I wasn't like part of it, and I didn't have writer friends to give me feedback, or like people who read contemporary. I didn't have those kind of writer friends, so I didn't have beta readers to help me at that moment in time. And so I was querying, and obviously I was getting rejections, obviously, because like it needed so much work. And then DV Pit rolled around, and I was like, oh my God, I gotta get into this. I gotta get agent likes. And I worked really hard on my pitches. I sent it to some agents, and authors were offering to look at pitches and, you know, help you make it better. And I sent it to them, and I worked really, really hard on my query letter as well. But the main book was not good. And so I had joined a DV Pit group. We were all like, you know, encouraging each other, and we were boosting each other's tweets, and I got 50 likes from agents, which was really great because it was a good amount of likes. And then we were just like talking one day, and I still didn't know that it was bad, that my book was not revised. And so I was talking one day, and they were like, oh, like how many words is your book? And I was like, oh, 130,000. They're like, there was like silence in the group, and they're like, oh no. And then one friend, Naz Kutub, his book is coming out this year, and he was like, send me your book, like I'll help you. He did. He was like, if it wasn't for him, this book, Lemon Trees, would not be where it is now. So he really helped me with it. And I revised it, and I sent it also. I did a mistake. Don't do what I did. I did not query in batches. I was like, 50 agents, all of them are getting a query letter. It was so bad. I'm so sorry. Please don't do what I did. You have to query in batches so you know what works and what doesn't. And so obviously I was getting rejections because like it still needed work. And then my agent sent me an R&R. And she was like, it was the most beautiful R&R ever. Like she sent it like a month later, and it was like eight word pages of Word document, like 8 pages, and it was amazing. I was like, it was so detailed. Like usually I know R&Rs are like small, like, oh, work on character blah 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 and plot blah blah blah. Like it's sometimes like, you know, simple. But no, she went into detail, and she was like, I would like to see it again if you would like to do this R&R. But at that time I felt like so drained because I was just getting rejections, and I was very upset because there's like no books that talk about what's going on in Syria. And I'm like, I want, you know, like, I was like, please, like, someone just give me a chance. Like, I will work hard. And still, I didn't really have a lot of writer friends who could help. Like, Naz was helping me, but of course, like, he had his own book to write and all that stuff. So I stopped. I put lemon trees aside for I think 2 months. I had one racist reply from an agent, and that like completely ruined me. I was like, it was something kind of like she was like, oh yeah, she was saying that it's obvious that your English is not your mother tongue, and the sentences are coming out kind of forced and rigid, and there was no feeling in like your writing. And I'm like, oh, so like every single time I would write, a sentence, I'd be like, is this fluent enough? Is this, is it good? And it was so sad because like English is my mother tongue, but like it sucks when you hear something like that. So I didn't write for 2 months, and in my personal life, I was also going through like a rough time. I had to learn German. I didn't have like a university to study in, and it was like there was a lot going on at that moment. Just like my life started thankfully turning around in March, and I was going to move to Germany to learn German. And the night, and that's when author mentor match applications were open. And I decided 8 hours before my train was going to leave that I was going to apply. Like I wasn't even thinking of applying. I was like, just do it. Like they'll reject you. It's fine. You've dealt with rejections before. It's fine. And so I applied, and it took 1 month for them to make a decision. And I was chosen like on the eve of my birthday, which was like the best birthday present ever. And my mentor, Joan F. Smith, picked up my book, and I'm like eternally thankful for her. She saved lemon trees, and we worked on the R&R together that Allie, my agent, sent me. And we worked on it for 6 months. And then in August, I sent it to Allie. She finished it in 2 weeks, and she sent me the offer, like the call that we have the call, and she offered on the call, and I was crying. It was a whole thing. And then her and I worked on it for 2 years until January of last year. And I sold it in 4 days. We went on sub, and it was amazing. I sold it within 4 days to Little Brown in a preempt. And then that following month, I sold 15, it was like 10 languages. And then the other 5 came later, and I sold it to Bloomsbury within a month as well. And yeah, I'm going to be the first Syrian YA author. So it was a long journey, but thankfully I got there in the end. So yeah, sorry about that. It was very long.
No, I just have no clue what to say after that. That was
awesome.
That's like a story within itself. Like when someone writes your like biography, that's like an epic journey you've got going on there. I mean, it makes the next question I'm going to ask like less interesting. It was just, what was the most exciting point of writing your upcoming novel? But I feel like you seem to have had like so many sort of twists and turns. And
oh yeah, the book went through so much. I'm a very impatient person, and so I had to learn to be patient. Like writing a book really teaches you to be patient, and you have to be ready. Like for me, I had to be ready to rewrite the whole book, and I rewrote the whole book 3 times. I know some people don't, they change a couple of stuff, but I had to rewrite the whole book. And I remember like one time I was kind of resisting that because I was like, I don't want to put in the effort, like it's too much, like just let me change some stuff. And my agent was like, you can tell like which part is the new part because your writing got better and which is the old part. So rewriting was something that I actually did enjoy, because the first time I rewrote it, it took me 4 months, and then the second time was 2 months, and then the last time was 1 month. I wrote the whole book within 1 month, and I was able to know my characters more because I know them now. Like I've been writing them for 5 years. But it was exciting to write a Muslim girl who didn't conform to stereotypes. That was like really fun to write. It was scary because at the time there was no blueprint. There was no other book that I could take inspiration from or learn like how to do this. So I was really scared of messing it up, and I did at the beginning. It was a bit difficult, but I found my footing. And yeah, that was actually fun. And obviously the romance was really exciting for me to write. I really liked that. That was fun.
On top of that, what kind of genres, tropes, and themes are you most excited about incorporating in your future novels? So we already heard that you like romance, so probably going to keep on with some more romance. Maybe some romantic tropes you're thinking of including in your next novels?
I really like the hurt comfort trope. That was like, I don't know, I like vulnerable moments. I am not opposed to any romance tropes out there. Like anything that works, I'm in it. Like, I really like, doing my own spin on them. Honestly, not gonna lie, I can't think of any other trope right now, but I am not opposed to any trope. The one that I would like to do, I would like to try fake dating, only because I want to see how I do it, because like I only like specific types of fake dating, so I would like to do that and see how it works out. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
I love fake dating. I love it.
Yeah, we did a whole episode on like, it was basically Ruby's episode because she just talked the whole time and me and Kat were like, oh, Ruby.
Okay, no, Ray, you were so into some of the tropes. You were talking about the grumpy sunshine trope.
Yes.
They're both very romantic.
Oh, I love that. Oh yeah, that's a good trope. I like that trope. I like when the girl is the grumpy. That is cool too.
Yes.
Oh,
Like,
girl.
that's so
yeah. Yeah. And I also, I'm sorry.
Oh no,
Continue.
you go.
Oh no. I want to say that I also like I think that's more in fantasy that I like. Oh no, also in contemporary, it's like shy boy but not shy girl. I like those. Like I like it when it's like, switched, because you always see a certain type, and then when you switch it, you're like, oh, it feels like a new trope, and you're like, oh, this is interesting now. So I like that.
Subverting tropes, especially romance ones, is just so fun. It's so fun.
My favorite is when you get the jock girl and the nerd boy.
Oh yes.
Yes.
So entertaining. But were there any times where you doubted your writing abilities or the story of Lemon Trees, and how did you work through that?
Oh yeah, big time. The one thing that when I first started writing, I was scared because I am Syrian, but I didn't live in Syria. So my family have been immigrants from like the 80s, I think. It was a very, very long time ago. And I was born in Canada. So, but while I did live in an Arab country, and my friends, I lived in the United Arab Emirates in Dubai for 15 years. And so I was surrounded by Arabs, and all my best friend is Syrian, but still it's different than if you lived in Syria. And so I was always scared, like, am I the right person am I Syrian enough to write this story? I was always scared about that. I did have like one comment where someone was telling me, oh, like, but your characters are coming off a bit like not Syrian, like a bit like a westernized Syrian, and that comment kind of like, it made me take a step back. Like I understand what they're saying, but at the same time, I had to learn that I am Syrian enough. Like I'm Syrian. Like that's my country. Their circumstances forced me to not live there, but that doesn't make me any less Syrian than someone who's living there. And so I had to like remember a lot of, because I used to visit Syria when I was younger up until 2010. That was like the last year that I went there. And so I was remembering like how it felt to be there, and I tried to incorporate that into Lemon Trees. And my writing, I was also scared because, like, as I said, like I got that rejection from that agent, and I was like, oh, maybe my writing isn't good enough. And so until now, I get really surprised if someone's like, oh my God, I loved the book. I'm like, why are you lying to me? Like, just tell me the truth. Because it's because of rejections that you get from agents, because it's you're putting your writing out there. This is like your thoughts. These are your stories that you wrote. So it's very, very personal. And it's amazing that rejections do stay with you for a very long time. Like the other day, I was opening my email. I was trying to get an email from my mailbox, and I came across a rejection that I got in 2018, and it still hurt. It was so weird, but it still hurt. And you have to learn, to live with it and focus. Like, just because you got a rejection, just because someone didn't really like it, doesn't mean that this is the truth, because there are so many other people out there who do love it. And that is also a truth. That is the real truth. That one isn't. Like the rejection isn't the truth. The people who love the book is the truth. So yeah, sorry, I went on a tangent there.
No, that was a perfect tangent. We're very pro tangent.
Yeah. Something I wanted to bring up in terms of tangent was also that thing you said about not feeling Syrian enough. And like, as someone who is mixed, I'm half Malaysian, I get that so much because I was always like, am I like Malaysian enough to write this story? And like I remember one time I wrote this like thing about being mixed race, and I got someone saying to me, that's not what it's like to be mixed race. And I was like, but that was my experience. Like, and I really, really like hate that when people say that there's only one way to write that kind of story, when it's like, no, everyone has different experiences, and as long as you're not like generalizing, saying everyone's story is like that, then it's, I feel like
exactly.
I love what you said about like that not feeling enough about that.
Yeah, like seriously, everyone who's listening, you are enough. Like you have to know this. That should not be something that stops you from writing, because as you said, this is your experience. The thing is, I did have to write a bit differently because Salama is a Syrian girl living in Syria, and so I knew how to write that because I know I'm Syrian. Like, for example, from my second book, my character, her name is Haneen, and she is an American Syrian girl living in the States. That is someone I could write, without thinking, you know what I mean? Because that's something that I am. I'm like a Canadian Syrian. But like for Salama, I had to like kind of switch my brain to what she would be thinking. And I was able to do that. The thing is, like, I was stopping myself because I thought I wasn't enough, but I am. Like, I can do both. And you can do both as well if you wanted to write, for example, a full Malaysian girl, because you are Malaysian as well.
Yeah.
No.
You're so inspirational, Zoulfa. We
like
knew
10
it. This is
minutes
why
in
we had
and
you
we're
on. You're so inspirational.
I'm gonna print out some like inspirational quotes, just like
Just
you
on
are
our
enough
wall.
from Zoulfa.
Zoulfa's
Can I
like,
send it to
"You're
you and you
enough,
can
guys."
autograph it for me, and I'll just hang it up on my like wall. You are enough. Yeah.
Yeah, but I love everything that you said there. I mean, I know I've been rejected a lot. I feel like it's something universally, like when you try to get published, it's inevitable. You're going to probably get rejected a ton.
Yeah.
If you don't, then how? But apparently some people don't, which is crazy.
They're like once in a blue moon. I got rejected by all the agents. I only had one offer. That's it. So
yeah, you just need the one. Yeah, but I think rejection also is like, it can be so hard with writing, especially with books, because I know I like put my soul in my book sometimes, and so then like it feels so personal when they're like, nope, I don't like it, and you're like,
it's like you're not just rejecting the book, you're rejecting me. Kind of. That's the way it feels.
It is. You feel like you are rejected because you are your words. You created these words. You wrote them. This is your story. So these are your thoughts. It is like rejecting you. It's not like getting rejected from a university or from a job. Okay, maybe from a job, maybe, because like it's who you are, but like based on who you are, not your qualifications. But like with writing, it's so personal. Like you think like, oh, it's gonna be fine. It's okay to be sad. It is so okay to cry. Like I cried. I used to cry a lot. Like I remember one time, like it was 12 a.m. and I couldn't sleep, and I was just like crying into my pillow. Like, why is everybody rejecting this story? And it happened, and it's okay to be sad. Like I know I used to feel a bit like, why is it's such an irrational like sadness, like I should get over it because I've been rejected like from other stuff, like from jobs or whatever, but this hurt more, and it still hurts. So it's okay if it hurt. Like you can be 100% sad. Just don't be upset that you're sad. Just let the sadness take its course. Just treat yourself while you're sad.
well, that's great advice. But you've already talked a little bit about like the difficult parts of writing Lemon Trees, but we wanted to ask what you think like your biggest struggle was while working on it.
Mm-hmm. My biggest struggle was actually writing the pain. I know my readers have cried, and I'm not lying when I said I cried too. It was a heavy book, and I'm not someone who sugarcoats. I like to write the truth as it is, because I feel like it would be kind of insulting to the people who are going through what the book shows that they're going through. And so I had to write like some really, really heavy scenes, and that was for me a bit difficult to write. I would write like a few sentences, and then I had to take like a breather. And there's like one chapter in the book that I cannot read. Like whenever my editor used to put comments, and they want me to edit them, and I'm like, I would like write in the comment section like, I hate this chapter so much because like I cannot edit it. I had to rewrite the whole chapter. I remember like my agent was like, I'm so sorry, but you're gonna have to rewrite this chapter. And I'm like, God damn it, because it was a horrible one, because it was heavy. It was really, really heavy. And you think that you get desensitized, but you don't. Like, I still read sometimes some passages and I cry because I remember the stories that made me write it, or something that I saw, or someone that I know that this happened to them, and I would cry. So the pain was something very difficult to write. Yeah.
I have a question to add on to that before we go to the next one. So I also like to write a lot of contemporary and stuff, and a part of that is writing pretty heavy scenes. So do you have any advice for people who have to write those heavy scenes, like maybe how to go about them or how to handle the effect it has on you?
Yeah. For me, I go kind of extreme. Maybe don't do what I do, but I usually put myself in my main character's shoes. So this is how I write the scene. I have to be, for it to feel honest and raw, I have to imagine myself as my character. And whatever she's feeling, I feel. So reading, for example, that chapter, it feels like it happened to me because I had to put myself in her shoes. This is for me is the only way to write something that feels authentic to myself, and not, for example, because sometimes people, I don't want to say over exaggerate, but they kind of milk the sadness and the pain, and that it becomes too much. Like it becomes like, it's not good. I don't know how to explain it, but like it doesn't have the same effect as it would if it were authentic. And so I take care of myself a lot after. So if I put myself in an extreme situation, I have to like take myself out of that, and I watch something, or like I do something completely opposite. Like I watch something funny, or I write fanfic, or I write cute scenes to counteract. So I actually wrote 130,000, not fanfic, but kind of like real stories that would have happened to my characters as therapy for myself. So like with the pain, I would, with every passage that is sad, I would write a short story that is cute. That could have probably happened. That is how I do it. And I would just like remove myself from the book. Like after that scene, I would go out, I would walk. Oh yeah, I walked a lot. I used to go out walking all the time. We have a forest beside our apartment complex. And like nature for me is very healing. And I would feel myself like all the negative energy just like going away, and it felt good. So do what makes you feel safe. Like I would find safety in nature and safety in watching stand-up comedy, or a favorite TV show that I used to like to watch, like Parks and Recreation. So yeah, that's my advice.
That's good advice. I think as soon as you realize that you're writing in a puddle of tears, that's when you're like, I've got to get up and go walk around, because you're like, I can't even read the screen anymore because I'm crying so much, because you're just writing a sad scene. So do you think the pressure of publishing can be a good motivator, or do you think it also takes away from the genuine love of writing? And we've already asked what your career journey was like, so we won't reiterate that one again. But yeah, so what do you think about the pressure of publishing?
Oh, God, pressure of publishing is a double-edged sword. Some people are strong, some people are more sensitive, some people are emotional. I fall within the emotional place. I remember in 2018 when I was writing Lemon Trees, I didn't deactivate my Twitter because I was scared that I was going to forget it after 30 days and they'll like remove it. So, but I like logged off and I wasn't on Twitter for 6 months because I am a person who compares herself to other people. And I know everybody goes through this, but for me, it was debilitating because I was starting to hate my book. I was like, because it felt like everybody was ×2 speed and I was like slogging in slow-mo and I'm like barely getting there and everyone's like book, agent, like, it felt like everything is happening to everyone except me, and it feels like that to everyone, I know. And so for me it's a double-edged sword, and there is a pressure there. Like the comparison is a horrible thing. It's horrible. And so I feel like we learned so much from social media. Like I learned to be a better writer because of Twitter. Like there were like a lot of people who had so many thoughts on how to write certain things and who should write what and stuff like that. And I was like, oh my God, that's so interesting. Like I learned a lot. It helped me become a better writer. But you have to know what good things to take and what the bad things to just leave it. Like I would suggest like Twitter should not be something that you open every day because it really, really does take a lot. Like for me, I don't open it a lot nowadays, even though I have a book published with stuff like that, but I still compare myself to other people. I still compare myself to people who have like a few other books coming out. I'm like, because you're always worrying. You're like, you get an agent and then you worry whether your book's going to sell. And then after your book sells, you're worried how it's going to, how it's going to be in the market. And then you worry about the next book and the next one. So the worry doesn't end because there's always someone that you're comparing yourself to. And so I would remove myself from the pressures of publishing. Let the pressure of publishing just be the rejections we get from querying, because I think that is enough negativity to have. But yeah, I think now, because publishing is changing, because when I started in 2018, it wasn't as much pressure as it is now. Back then, it was more chill, and I'm scared that it's getting more and more intense on social media as the days go by. So if I were a querying author in this period of time, I would not use Twitter to, be there all the time. I would use it to get to know writers, to learn from the good tweets that talk about how to write and stuff like that. And I would use it for contests like DVPit and is PAMAD over? I don't know, but the contest that they have where you pitch your book, I would use it for that, and to find other writers like you, like myself, people who can, help you become a better writer. But other than that, I would remove myself. Honestly, I think Instagram is better because it's more chill. So if there's a social media to use, I honestly would suggest Instagram, because it's fun. I think it's cute. I don't know, but to each their own. Maybe some other people find their people on Twitter and it's okay for them. But for me, oh boy, I had to step away. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say on Twitter, it feels like every 10 minutes somebody's announcing, I got a book deal. I got a book deal. I got an agent. I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Twitter can be so fun, but it can also be so damaging.
Yeah. But seriously, you have to take care of yourself, because if you are not doing well, your stories won't do well. Your writing won't do well. And there's so much harm from comparing, and there's no good from it. No good comes from comparing yourself to other people. So literally it was difficult, by the way, for me to stop Twitter. I was getting withdrawal symptoms. I was like, no, I must tweet. It was I have to be where the people are. I felt I have huge FOMO, by the way. My friends can attest to that. I have huge FOMO, but I had to learn to put myself first and put my writing first, because if I'm not doing well, honestly, my stories were going to suffer. I was going to hate lemon trees. I'm like, oh, you're not, why aren't you getting published? So it's not fair to me. It's not fair to my book. And yeah, you got to put yourself first. I hope that made sense.
You actually just gave me the perfect segue into the next question. So on your social media, you talk a lot about the importance of self-love and gentleness with yourself. Oh my God, gentleness with yourself. I forgot how to say words there. But how has your self-love journey played into your writing journey?
I had to, as I said, I had to learn to put myself first. I had to do things that made me feel better. One thing that I did a lot was whenever I felt like my book wasn't doing well, or my writing was suffering, or I didn't like what I was writing, I would write fanfic. I still write fanfic to this day. And because in fanfic, people don't really owe you anything. So if they tell you that they liked your story, they mean it. And so I would trust them. And so whenever I wanted to feel like I'm doing something good or feel good about myself, I would write a fanfic about my favorite characters and I would post it. And I would get so many very nice comments from so many amazing readers out there. And I was like, you know what, this is good. This for me was a huge self-love, because it made me love my writing and it made my writing better. Seriously, fanfic is amazing. The people who write fanfic all the time are heroes. Seriously, that is a very amazing thing that they do. And it really does help you craft, make your craft better. Because I was looking at my old fanfic. Oh my God, it was so embarrassing. These people were saying, oh, it's amazing, they're so good. I'm like, no, it's not. Reading it now, it's so embarrassing. My grammar was all over the place. My spelling wasn't trying to find, but my grammar, oh my God, I was jumping from past to present tense with every sentence.
Yeah.
I learned. It helped me learn, and it helped me become better. And now I'm a better fanfic writer. but yeah, and I would treat myself a lot. Like I would get ice cream or something. Like if I and if I would like write a heavy scene, I would go get ice cream to, you know, counteract that. Or I usually write up to a good scene, like, okay, just get through this. And then you can get to the part where, you know, they're together and they're doing something, like, you know, like it's like it was a motivator for me to keep on writing. But yeah, it's just self-love. It's literally the Parks and Recreation motto, which is treat yourself. Like seriously, that's it. Treat yourself. Put yourself first. Do whatever it is that makes you feel better. Like for me, as I said, nature was helping me a lot. I was walking. I was fanfic, nature, and ice cream. That's it. Those three for me were like the holy grail.
Great combination.
That's amazing. I love the reference to like they always go treat yourself. It's so good. It's so good. Yeah, but I also love that you reference like jumping from tense to tense. Oh my gosh, when I first started writing, a mess. So much tense like mix-ups. I was like, oh my gosh, rereading some of it now, I'm like, wow, she really didn't understand the past or the present.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh my god. And like I had so many cheesy lines. Oh, it was so embarrassing. And the thing is, my cheesy old weird fanfics are still up because there were innocent fanfics I used to write for do you guys know Once Upon a Time?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I was upset. That was when I was in 2011, 12 or something like that. That's when I was, no, sorry, 2016. That's when I was writing it. And I was like, wow, like these fanfics that I wrote, like chef's kiss, they're amazing. They are not. And they were like really cute things, but like, so they're still up because for me, they're a reminder that I got better, because that's how it is. That's how you do. You write, the more you write, the better you get. Like I'll be a better writer in 2 years than I am now. So yeah.
Well, we're very pro fanfic here at Moving Right Along. Simone wouldn't happen any other way. Yeah. Also, Once Upon a Time, Captain Swan. Just
that's my
yeah.
They were my ship. Oh my OTP. Yeah.
We love Once Upon a Time. Yeah, but I love that our title for this episode is so deceptive. It's literally Your Book Sucks, and we're just talking about self-love so much. So for our next question, what would you say are a few steps to be kinder to ourselves when writing?
Wow. Okay. Kinder to yourself, because I feel like I'm repeating myself with the same things that I'm saying, but it's like, okay, I'll say something that happened to me. Like when I was querying and when I had an agent, I stopped reading books. Like I couldn't read any published book because I was comparing myself to the authors that published. And I had an agent, like, you know what I mean? Like I was on my way to getting a book published, but still it hurt so much to read stories and know that my book wasn't on a bookshelf. And so it was this small, stupid, irrational pain that didn't make sense. Like when I was reading a book and I couldn't finish it, I was like, where the hell did this come from? Because I've never read that on Twitter or with people's experiences. Like, am I the only person who can't read a book because my book isn't getting published? Like it felt so childish. It's very important to know that pain is irrational. Like when you feel sad, it doesn't have to make sense. Whatever makes you sad isn't going to tell you, oh, this is going to make you sad. It's just going to happen. And so you have to learn how to deal with it. You have to learn that you don't have to force yourself. I stopped. I wasn't in a reading slump for a year because like I told you I got like 2 years I was editing Lemon Trees, and a whole year I wasn't reading anything except Lemon Trees. Like my friends would send me their books to beta read. I'd be like, I'm sorry, I can't. Like even books that aren't published, I can't do this. Like it hurt. Like I don't know why. It was weird. It was like one of the weirdest things that happened to me. And so it's all about putting yourself first. It really, really is. Because as I said, like if you suffer, your writing suffers. I would really suggest for authors to stay away from social media for like just scrolling, you know, the limitless scrolling thing. Don't do that. It really, really plays with your head. It really, really does. I don't know what else to say. I really don't.
That's good. But I find that so interesting that you're like, oh, you couldn't read, because when I'm sad, I read like bad books, because like reading a bad book was like, I was like, oh, my writing's not as bad as this.
Oh,
so
yeah, that's good. That's another thing. I should have done that.
I would like read the worst books, like the kind of ones where you're like, what? There's like, how many? What are you doing here? But like, he's like 10,000 years old. Why is he trying to get with a teenager? Kind of thing. And you like read that and be like, okay, that got published. So like, you know, at the end of the day, there's no accounting for taste and stuff like that. So that kind of, yeah. But that kind of leads on to our next question, which is that, you know, when you have a lot of us in the writer community, I feel like every writer does. I feel like even if you say you don't, you do, has like imposter syndrome, where you're sort of comparing yourself to other writers and you don't feel like you are a good writer. You think you're like lying to people. And sometimes even when people like affirm that you're a good writer, you think you're like, they're just lying to you. It's all like a big conspiracy. You're like, everyone's lying to me about my writing, kind of thing. So have you ever experienced imposter syndrome, and how do you think we can avoid that imposter syndrome?
Yeah. I still experience imposter syndrome. I think that is something every person is born with. It feels like an invisible organ in your body that has to exist. But yes, I still suffer from imposter syndrome. I had to learn that my writing is also good, because there's no such thing as the ultimate best writing people. Every book is like a snowflake. It's different, right? Like, and every person's taste is unique. So if a person doesn't like your book, that doesn't mean that your book is bad or your writing is bad, because you see all these big authors out there. There's people who love them and they're like, oh my God, that writing's like the best thing ever. And then there's other people who just don't like their books or their writing. And these people also suffer from imposter syndrome, like all the big authors do. And so I had to learn that this imposter syndrome, this nagging voice that's like, oh, you're not good enough and people are lying to you, isn't the truth. It's not the truth, because fanfic, again, helped me with that, because I'm like, see, imposter syndrome, these people don't know who I am and they didn't pay anything to read my fanfic, so they don't have to like say it's good or blah, blah, blah. But they took time out of their day to write a comment and say, I really like this. When are you updating it? And like just yesterday, I got another email from AO3, and they're like, when are you updating your fanfic? Because we're waiting. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like I had deadlines. And they're like really upset. And they're like, and every now and then I get like an email. They're like, I always come back to this fanfic and read it over and over again because I really love it. And I'm like, it's these comments that I grab onto, like my life depends on it. And this helps fight the imposter syndrome. I don't think you can completely avoid an imposter syndrome, but you can fight it. So for me, it was fanfic and trusting my friends and making them swear to God that they're saying the truth about my writing. And that helped. Yeah.
Yeah, I do want to say I follow you on Twitter, and I did read your Drukhari fanfic, and I loved it. Your Druid, and it was so good. Yeah. I'm not a big fanfic reader. I don't know why. I just never like got into it. I guess I just never got into. I wasn't really on the internet when I was younger. But oh my gosh, it was so good. I still think about it sometimes. I'm like, wow, I enjoyed that so much.
Thank you so much. Oh my God, when I pressed the submit button, I was like literally shaking, because like nobody had read Lemon Trees, and it was like my first time putting my face to a fanfic. I had to make another account because like I have another one that's private, so no one knows who I am. But this one I was like, oh, people know who I am, like, you know what I mean? But I'm so glad that you liked it. Thank you so much. Oh my God.
I loved it.
Thank you.
But for the next question, a lot of times imposter syndrome sort of stems from this idea that we have to be like a good writer, which is very subjective. But do you think that being a, again, quote, good writer is a healthy aspiration to have?
It's a healthy aspiration to have if it's one that you set for yourself, as long as you're not comparing your writing with other people. For me, I have realized that all stories are amazing, as long as you know how to do grammar and you're not jumping from past to present tense with every sentence. And there's a structure to your story, like there's a beginning, plot twist, ending, resolution, blah, blah, blah. every story is amazing because everything else can be worked on. So this is something people always think like, oh, you have to have like an English degree or you have to, I don't know, to write a book. That's not true. That's not true. As long as you have a story idea and you know how to write grammar, you can write a story because everything else can be fixed. Everything else can become better. That's literally how it is. And that is good writing. That's it. Because as I said, like you have these popular New York Times bestseller books that some people like and some people hate. Some people think that writing is a bit too dry or too flowery or not there, or some characters are underdeveloped. That is all people's opinions. And that doesn't mean that it's a bad book or a bad writing. Good writing is extremely subjective. Good writing is literally just grammar and having a story idea. Everything else, people will always fight about. People always say that this character isn't, fun, or this character, or what the hell is this plot? I don't get it. It's subjective. So good writing should be a goal for yourself, not for other people. That makes sense.
That is such good advice.
Thank you.
We keep on having guests where I'm like, I should be taking notes right now. But that's the beauty of a podcast. We can
It's recorded, yeah.
Yeah.
Listen to it later. You get our listeners up, more plays.
Yeah,
the more plays, the merrier.
Listeners, get your notes out.
Yeah, exactly.
Get a pen, paper.
Yeah,
Okay.
bring the whole crew around. Hire a lecture theatre and just play this podcast in it. Go to your local university, hire a lecture theatre, play this podcast, get people to take notes. That is my command onto you.
And invite us. We'll be there.
Yeah, invite us. I'll fly over.
Thank you.
Yeah, but obviously, as you said, your journey with lemon trees was one that required a lot of patience, and I think a lot of people get really intimidated at the idea of writing novels because of the patience it requires. So we wanted to ask, how did you manage to keep motivation and strength to finish it? And do you have any tips for persevering through the drafting process and editing and just everything?
Yeah, actually, my story, as I said, is a bit very unique.
Make sure to tune in on May 14th for part 2 of our inspirational interview with Zoulfa Katouh. And in the meantime, thank you for listening to the Moving Right Along podcast made possible by the Young Writers Initiative. Make sure to leave us a rating and review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Google Podcasts. You can follow us on Instagram at Moving Right Along Podcast or find us on tywi.org. And while you're on the website, why not join our Discord server, The Writers Town? Thank you to our team without whom this wouldn't be possible. Our producer, Simone, our co-producer, Jasmine, our social media manager, Cassette, and our brand new video editor, Mallory. All music is by Kevin MacLeod at filmmusic.io. Today you heard Beauty Flow, and all sound effects are from the Free Sound Project.